All right. Well, it's been a long time between drinks, or between when I last updated about Honeysuckle Way. It is now 12th of June, 2018. I've been wanting to go back over these videos. The last 3 or 4 videos I recorded but never uploaded, so of course they'll be on YouTube now. You know, when I upload this, I'll upload them as well. But so they go from 24th of June to 25th of October. So I haven't actually done any updating or anything since then. A lot of things happened in the meantime. Towards the end of last year, my wife and I got involved in a legal situation that something was done to her that was unfair. We took legal action. It was settled out of court, but that tied up months and months and was very stressful. I was waiting for the music for Tony. Tony is a fantastic composer, best composer I've ever met or known. I just love his stuff. Unfortunately, as of probably 2 months ago from now, I can't remember the exact date, probably somewhere around about April, he told me that he wasn't able to go through with the project, and that's no problem because he was doing it on a voluntary basis, and he's extremely busy. He's just a wonderful person, wonderful music. I hope I can work with him at some stage in the future. I'm sick of doing things without proper budgets. Is pretty much the underscore in all of this. But so I mean that was a shame, but I completely back Tony with it. I understand what's going on there, his reasoning and the position he's in, so that's no worries at all. He's very busy with studies and teaching and family life, so that's no worries. So I've got a friend in Ireland Paul Creedon, who is going to mix the soundtrack. He also is a musician as well, and I asked him, and he said that he'd love to do the music for it. He'd offered earlier, but I'd already had the arrangement with Tony. So Paul should be, where are we now? 12th of June. So Paul should be able to deliver that by the end of this month. I've spoken to him a few times lately, and we agreed the end of this month would be good. So hopefully, I haven't spoken to him, when I say lately, I mean probably a month ago, so I haven't spoken to him in the last week or so. So hopefully all that's going through okay. I've also moved house, so I'm in a whole new surroundings now. And look, I think everything just got a bit stressful with the film towards the middle of last year, going through the rough cuts. I did, as some of these other videos I'm going to post show, I did submit it to, it's a Sydney Liftoff Festival, and we weren't successful with that. I was meant to get feedback as part of that package, and they never provided it, so I pushed them, and I'll have to look at the dates. I think it was a month or so later I finally got something from them, and it was scathing. I didn't actually want to read it out, but I know in one of these videos I said I would, and there's no shame in the criticism. I couldn't, I try and look at this stuff constructively, and I'll try and take on board what they say. There's always great danger when you show films to people involved in the project or family and friends that are close to you that they're pretty biased, I guess, or too sympathetic or whatever. So I'll dig out this feedback, because I do try and take this stuff constructively, and there's got to be a certain amount of value in what they're saying that I've got to find. But I don't know, look, with the legal stuff going on last year and the moving house, and we had a house to sell and deals falling through because of this legal thing, everything just got so stressful. I just kind of needed a good break from the film, but I really want to finish it up. And I wrote my novel in the meantime, Female Planet, which we've just had published, so I just took time away from everything. Look, I'll find the feedback here, if I can quickly, that I got from the Liftoff Festival. I think I've got it in here. I haven't looked at it. I read it once or twice when they sent it to me, and then I was like, oh, I'll read that again. Here we go. Okay, extended feedback. Yeah, now I got this in January, I think. yeah, the bright side, we had a nice holiday. We managed to have a family holiday away in Fiji, which was great, and I think I was emailing them when I was there to get this feedback. Oh, jeez. Okay, is it still recording? It is. There's the feedback. Let me just put this back on without dropping it. That was pretty lucky. Okay, still there. Alright. I'm using a selfie stick now. Right, a honeysuckle way. Now, these are scores out of out of 10. Originality and creativity, 3 out of 10. Direction, dramatic ties, 3 out of 10. Writing, 3 out of 10. Cinematography / location, 4 out of 10. Performances, characterizations, 2 out of 10. Production value, 5 out of 10. And yes, I just don't understand this, because the production value is probably the worst thing in it, because we had no money. Pacing, structure, 3 out of 10. Sound, music, 3 out of 10. Now, why they even mark me on that when it was just a rough cut with temp music, had no music? And maybe this is I had a few temps, that eerie kind of sound, that was temp music, and then and then there's that one song in the middle that was just temporary. But anyway, I told them to ignore the sound and the music because it wasn't the final mix, but they still gave me a score. But I just don't understand this. Originality, creativity, 3 out of 10. Well, I think it's really original because the character in it is not a hero on a journey, it's someone who's lost and trying to find their way. Direction, dramatic ties, I'm not quite sure what I mean by dramatic ties, but I didn't like the direction. Writing, 3 out of 10, I thought the writing was good. Cinematography, 4 out of 10, I think some of those shots with the anamorphic lens are great. Performances, 2 out of 10, I mean, you are kidding me with that great performance Ashley put in, and that amazing performance at the end. Production value, the highest thing there, 5 out of 10. Pacing, structure, 3 out of 10, well, I really disagree with that as well, because the pacing, I mean, I made it a lot shorter so it moved faster, and maybe it's because we start with the flashbacks, maybe that's a bit confusing, but people who saw the film said that made them think at the start once they worked out what was going on, and you can, so kind of the first act is a flashback really, or works in flashbacks. Dear, I mean, listen to this. Comments on originality. The narrative lacks originality. The foundations of the story are generic and is in need of adjustments. The narrative lacks originality. Well, what does that mean? You can't do something about someone who's sexually abused or living on the street? That's not original? I mean, I think the way I handle it's really original because, well, I wouldn't say original, but I don't know, it's genuine because she finds her own feet in the end, or starts to, Direction, dramatic ties. The ties between shots need to be more prominent and effective. So what is it? Are they talking about the way scenes work together there or something? I don't know. Writing. The script needs to be stronger. Moments of dialogues between characters needs to be believable and engaging. Oh man, I thought particularly the relationship between Amanda and Adam were really engaging. I mean, look, this is it all here. And there, that's the feedback you get. There are the comments there. I just don't get this. Cinematography. There are elements of this feature that hold promise and show potential. Concentrate on keeping consistent aesthetic and continuity in the visuals. Framing angles and movement of the camera needs greater consideration. Well, that may well be true. I mean, I was shooting it handheld. I don't know, because I wanted it to look in the moment and almost like a documentary. But yeah, I'm certainly open to that. I think later here they might talk about inconsistent framing between the different in one scene between different characters, which I think would be a fair criticism. Performances. Performances need work. Connections between characters are unbelievable and lack emotional vigour. You're kidding me. I mean, I know there are some performances better than others in the film, but to say that some of these are unbelievable or that connections between characters are unbelievable and lack emotional vigour, that is just crazy. 2 out of 10 for the performances. Production value. The film was produced on a low budget and a full-length feature has been made. More time needs to be spent on the use of the camera and the construction of shots to make the most of the budget. Well, that may well be true. You know, I mean, when you're pushed time-wise, budget-wise, time is money. When you push budget and time-wise, yeah. But you know, in doing a handheld, that was meant to kind of overcome that, because it was meant to make it seem like you were just then and there. So maybe it was a bit self-defeating the way I did that. I don't know. Pacing structure. Pacing and structure needs improvement. The progression of the narrative is confused in parts. A clearer order needs to be presented. The pacing is slow, making the narrative drag. I don't know about that. I can see how the start with the flashbacks would be confusing, but it's kind of interesting putting things together, I think. Moments of the sound are extremely heightened. At times the music overwhelmed the dialogue and is not always used effectively. Well, I mean, that's rubbish. The cut that they had, the only bits of music in there were that eerie sound, which was, you know, that hardly ever goes over any dialogue at all. That one temporary song that we're putting into an actual song. I don't know. Thoughts on the beginning? Well, I don't know if I need to go through all of this, but I mean, I said I'd share all this. Maybe I should. Let me just read it. There's a whole lot of stuff here now. Thoughts on the beginning. The opening shot fails to establish a sense of place. The shot gives little away and seems disjointed from the narrative. You need to ask the questions, what am I trying to portray and why? The opening music needs to be toned down in comparison to the dialogue. It is extremely loud and overpowering. I mean, I haven't watched it for a while, but I don't think there's any music over the dialogue. But anyway, it wasn't even the audio mix. The fade out of the opening music needs to be smoother. It is extremely abrupt and needs to be more subtle. As it is, the pacing of the feature is compromised. The viewer anticipates a cut when the music stops, but rather the shot continues and it feels a little messy. I don't know. Overall, the opening lacks structure. In order for the narrative to progress seamlessly, there needs to be clear structure and direction of the narrative. The editing of shots is quite confused and abrupt, affecting the pacing. An example of this is the jump cuts between Amanda walking along a street and Adam in his makeshift home, cutting back to Amanda and a friend walking along in school uniform. There's no distinction between past and present. It is confused. Well, you know, it's intentionally like that. It's meant to make you think and challenge you and work out how is she there, why did she get there. The shots jump between time frames and places. It is unclear what is attempting to be shown, resulting in a confusing, messy outcome. Well, I don't know, but see, maybe because I'm not seeing it with fresh eyes, maybe I don't see that. Maybe what they're saying there is quite right. I don't know. Directions of shots need greater refinement and consideration. Why does the shot return to the street when Amanda and Adam are inside? What does it add to the sequences? I think that's just a cutaway showing a passage of time. I think when Amanda is leaning against the statue, a jump cut from a long cut to a medium shot is used. The shots look messy as the angle of the camera changes slightly. It would have been more effective and contributed towards the flow of the film if the camera had simply tracked in on it. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Maybe I should have done that shot. That's when she's standing against the wall and with the city, the river and everything behind her. I didn't have a tracking shot. Yeah, it would have been, but yeah, anyway. Thoughts on the middle. The acting and characterization is a weakness in this feature. That is just... I've never seen a character like Amanda before. To say this is a weakness is crazy. The performances are not believable. The relationships between characters lack an emotional connection and authenticity. The script needs to be more sophisticated, creative and original. The narrative is very generic. I say that's complete and utter rubbish. The narrative is really, really original. How many films about homeless people have you seen like this? None. That's what I think. That sounds like I'm reading it. That's my opinion. There aren't... Jeez. During the conversation with Adam's drug dealer, the lighting, sound and camera angles are inconsistent. As the shot jumps between Adam and Amanda and the dealer, the angle and position of the camera changes. The camera looks straight on at Adam and Amanda and looks up at the dealer. The eyeline matches between the two are inconsistent and their positioning in relation to one another is off. Small attention to details such as this need to be rectified in order to refine and present a polished product. Yeah, I tend to agree with that. That's probably right. I mean, without looking back at the footage, I can see how that would be the case. The lack of lighting in some shots confuses the image. During Amanda's rape, it is unclear what is happening as the image is almost impossible to make out. The consistency of lighting and its use is an area that needs work. Well, maybe, but I was, grading that for people to see it in a darkened room. So what they would see is quite bright. Maybe I need to consider people might be seeing it on computer monitors or TV screens in a bright room. The shots of the city lights, the slightly blurred images and the time-lapse of the awakening city are nicely constructed and well thought out. They give the audience a sense of location and the environment in which the narrative takes place. Thank you. Overall, the editing needs work. The pacing and timing of the feature is affected by poor transitions and abrupt cuts. I don't know. I just think these people were probably expecting something a lot easier and not as challenging. I don't know. See, I mean, this is the hard thing. It's hard for me to judge this, isn't it? Thoughts on the end. At times throughout the feature, the camera work is a little shaky, something that needs to be addressed. Yes, I agree with that. I mean, that's probably just me tiring, actually, holding the handheld mount all day. I mean, it really needed a proper Steadicam. The city shots are nicely constructed, however, they're out of keeping with the rest of the narrative. That's what you just said, they're really good. You need to stick with an aesthetic and run with it. Apart from aesthetic value, do these shots add to the narrative? Well, the cutaways, the time-lapse, the context, not time-lapse, they give the passing of time, the context. If you include shots like this, there needs to be a direct tie to the narrative. I feature your actor in the shot. No, I disagree with that. After Adam, it's context. The shot is the context. After Adam leaves, the narrative seems to take a different direction. Yes, that's intentional. It appears disjointed and a bit lost, yes, because that's what her life is doing. What are you trying to portray? Could it be cut down and told more concisely? Well, I think if you cut down it, it's trying to, I'm trying to make people go on the journey with her and experience and feel what she feels. So it's not something I want to cut through. I want people to go along with it. After Adam leaves, the narrative seems to take a different direction. It appears disjointed and a bit lost. Precisely, that is the whole point. The ending is a little underwhelming. The narrative is weak. I just don't think they're understanding it. There is no definite climax or denouement, and the viewer is left without resolve. The script and narrative needs to be stronger and more consistent. It leaves at the point where she's ready to accept help, which is the point, basically. Anyway, immediate areas for improvement. The use of camera needs improvement. Work on decluttering the frame and focus on what you want to be portrayed within a shot. The aesthetics could be stronger. The tone of the film needs to be echoed in the visuals. Well, I think they actually are. Focus on continuity between shots, refining the framing and use of the camera to portray a more polished, professional piece of film. Refining the framing and use of the camera to portray a more polished, professional piece of film. Yeah, see, I mean, look, one reason why I started with the cutaways to kind of tell the first act is that the audio wasn't the best in that first part, which made it just a little bit problematic at times, and also it was quite lengthy, that whole section, and it just seemed we could cut to the chase of that stuff very quickly by doing it in flashbacks, and it would, it kind of puts you right then and there with Amanda, right from the beginning of the film, where she's at now. So that was, I mean, if I go back to the original structure of the first act, that would solve the continuity thing they're talking about, but I think it would open other problems. Editing needs to be smoother and more refined. The pacing and structure would benefit from this, and the flow of the feature would be improved. The authenticity of the acting needs work. I mean, yeah, some performances, to be fair, are better than others, but the key ones are outstanding, I believe. The authenticity of the acting needs work. Focus on capturing the raw emotion of a character and move away from overly staged action. Yeah, well, I think it does. What can be done right away? Focus on the refinement of the camera work and editing. Take on board the feedback and consider the constructive criticism for your next project. Thank you for submitting to Sydney Liftoff Film Festival. Best of luck for the future. Final thoughts on reflection after 2 days away from the work. There are foundations of promise in this project. There are moments of nice cinematography that could be developed even further. Shots need to be cleaner and more refined. Consider what shots are being included and why. Does it add to the narrative aesthetic? Focus on continuity, framing, and the movement of the camera. The editing and transition of shots need greater consideration. Each shot needs to flow into the next. See, I just can't see how they're suggesting that they don't. There needs to be a set focus and direction of the aesthetic as well as the narrative. Well, I find that crazy as well, because I think there is. I mean, I get the points about shots need to be cleaner and more refined. Consider what shots are being included. What does it add to them? I mean, that's all fine, but that's the kind of thing that happens when you have a lot of time and a lot of money. You can do that kind of stuff. I had not a lot of time and even less money, and my thinking was, if it's handheld, it's in the moment. Maybe every scene needed to just be a single shot handheld rather than reverse angles and things. Maybe that would have sold it more. Maybe what I did was a little bit self-defeating because I was kind of mixed between the two styles, maybe. Don't know. Further reading. The following books have been vital in helping us to understand the right mindset, structure and overall knowledge needed for producing exceptional work. For writing, Screenwriting by Sid Field. Dan O'Bannon's Guide to Screenplay Structure. For philosophy, Rebel Without a Crew, Robert Rodriguez. For the preparation of actors, An Actor Prepares by Stanislavski. For the shoot, Making Movies by Sidney Lumet. We offer vast amounts of advice on our website with posts purposely designed to help all of our submitters to grow into exceptional storytelling filmmakers. All of our posts can be found here. Well, there you go. Look, to be honest, I find this really unhelpful. I find most of the criticism I don't understand or agree with. I don't think they're trying to judge the film for the kind of film it's trying to be. The things I do agree with are what I just said before about the photography. Maybe what I should have done is paid more attention to, the angle and the framing and that kind of stuff, or just ran with it completely, one camera one take, every shot, one shot every take. So maybe I kind of undid myself there. I certainly, they don't really talk about it here, mainly because I cut a lot of those scenes, but I certainly didn't get the quality of audio that I needed, and that's my fault. But that was mainly in the first act. The second and third act, I got a lot of it, not the first ones. Yeah, I mean, some of the criticisms there that I think are valid are ones that, most of which I knew anyway, I think, to do with low-budget filmmaking. So it's kind of saying if you had a budget, you would have a better film. And, well, thanks, I think I knew that. But to say it's unoriginal, the performance is only worth 2 out of 10. I mean, for God's sake. But maybe it's that low-budget aesthetic pulls it down and stops people seeing these things. I don't know, I haven't watched the film for at least half a year now. So maybe I should go back and look at it again since I haven't watched it for so long. But anyway, so that was that. I guess they didn't see what I was trying to do and tried to see that. It's like they just had a template of what a good film is meant to be, rather than trying to understand what I was trying to do and then give me criticism on that, and then throw in a little bit about, if you're trying to do this, then you succeeded to this degree, these other things could have been good, but also these kind of things that work well in films might be good incorporating them as well. So, I spent money for that feedback, and a lot of that, is anything that's good in there, and there are some good points in there, I'll take forward into another film if I ever make one, if I have money, because I don't want to do things without adequate budgets anymore, but most of it after the fact, it's not very useful, but, that's not their fault. That's the fault that, that just happens when you get this kind of feedback. After you've done something, you're going to take it to the next thing. So, yeah, I'm kind of disappointed I actually paid for that, to be honest, because I think with these festivals where they're talking about encouraging filmmaking, they should show things, well, I honestly think it should have been selected and shown, because, well, not that we would have ended up having the music done by then anyway, in retrospect, but I think I think if you're encouraging filmmakers, you've got to show where they're at and what they're doing, and I think these guys just have a separate idea about how a film should be, rather than trying to see where your originality and creativity is and what you're trying to do. But anyway, this has been a very long post, 25 minutes, my goodness. So that's probably about it. As expected, we didn't get in the South by Southwest Film Festival as well. I think that was notified in January or February or something. But anyway, so I'll give Paul an email, see how the music's cracking. Yeah, and I just want to get this thing out there. Chances of me doing a re-edit based on what they're saying there, no. Chance of me doing a re-edit if I watch it again and suddenly see something I don't like, maybe. But, you know, you've got to draw the line somewhere. So, so that's about it. I did manage to get, because the papers here to Toowoomba have been pretty good. There's this magazine, if my phone's not going to fall out, Style magazine, because the Chronicle here had run a few articles on the film a couple of years ago when we were making it, and we got this article here. I'm filming that well there, which is kind of about the book Female Planet, but also a fair bit about Honeysuckle Way as well. So I'm just very keen to get it finished and get it out there and get it happening. So to whatever degree it's going to finish it off, but also I know everyone who participated in the film will be wondering what's happening with it. So anyway, that's where it's at now, so hopefully we're going to be able to wrap it up in the next month or two when I get the audio mix and the music. So there we go, there's an update. Okay, thank you.